Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Inspirate Business, the show that's here to empower you, to inspire you, and to enlighten you. With Inspirate Business, we feature an aspirational, inspirational, and influential person each week. Somebody that we can learn from through their own journeys that they've undertaken as an influencer, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as a professional. And today we have none other than Zaakir Khan. Welcome, Zaakir, to Inspirate Business.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. Now, Zaakir is quite an interesting person. He's had an interesting journey. I know Zaakir through a family connection. He's married to my first cousin. So having, obviously socialized with Zaakir, I know he's had quite a journey. You are doing very well at the moment as a financial broker for Discovery. But to get to where you are has taken a long journey.
Oh, yes.
Right? And a lot of, quite a roller coaster ride.
Definitely.
And I mean, many people see success for people. They see success and they think it's all hunky-dory. The reality is that it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to where you are. And a lot of heartache, a lot of challenges, and you need to then really muster up a lot of your faith, a lot of the connection with Allah, a lot of the learnings, personal development stuff, and you've had all of that, Zaakir. So you grew up in Durban, I believe.
Yes, I grew up in Durban, a little town south of Durban called Ispingo Hills.
Right.
Born and brought up there, went to primary school in Ispingo Hills, went to Ispingo Secondary, the local government high school, and that's where I did my basic education.
All right. So once you had a good upbringing. I mean, your parents were quite influential in your life.
Oh yes, definitely. So a little bit about my family. I have one sister, Rizwana, and then of course my parents.
She's younger than you.
She's younger than me. She's 6 years younger than me, and she's quite an inspiration herself. She's a pilot.
Oh wow!
So yeah,
for a female Muslim as a pilot, wow,
yeah,
that's quite aspirational.
So I mean, our success or my success is firstly attributed to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and most definitely my parents, who gave us the grounding and the fortitude to get to where we are today.
You also Hafizul Quran?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wow, alhamdulillah.
So while doing primary school and high school, we were doing our hifz. So it was
in Ispingo,
in Ispingo at Ispingo Beach, Darul Uloom.
So you did it whilst
concurrently.
All right.
So
okay.
Did not leave school at any point. So it was long days, and that's all through my parents' hard work and sacrifice, waking up every day starting at about 4 a.m. as an 11-year-old, getting ready, make sure we dressed and changed. And it was not only me, it was my cousins as well, my father's brother's kids and so on. Get to madrasa at 5 a.m., in class 5 to 7, rush back from Ispingo Beach to Ispingo Hills, about a 10-minute drive. In school at 7:30, and in between that 7:30, you're changing in the car, you're eating breakfast, into school at 7:30. Often we'd get locked out because we were a bit late or whatever the case was. School, quarter to 8 till about 2 p.m. Back home, lunch. Back to madrasa at 2:30.
Mom was house.
Yeah, mom was housewife,
right.
And my dad's been in the insurance sector all his career as well. So
right.
I guess when we get to that part of the story, we'll talk about where that journey comes from. So, but they sacrificed everything of theirs in terms of their time, in terms of their careers and so on, to get us educated Islamically and with normal schooling education. But we again, 2:30 to 3, 2:30 back to madrasa till 6 p.m. Right? 6 p.m. back home, 6:30 to 7 supper, a little bit of TV. 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock was sabak for the next day. 8 to 9 was homework or whatever the case may be. And 9 o'clock bed, and do it again 6 days a week. Yeah.
Now, I can attest to this, having been through a similar experience, also becoming a Hafiz. But what I find, and maybe you can share this, is that it sounds to somebody that how does one able to do all of that in a day?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you think you start your day at 4 o'clock with secular education, you've got all the homework challenges. Then you need to prepare for your hifz every day. That's the door, and then your sabak, and all of that. Yet, I mean, you can, I know for myself, when I was doing that also through school and madrasa, I was probably at my most optimal in terms of every facet of my life, whether it was sport, whether it was school, whether it was madrasa, because of that discipline. And also, there's some beauty in your memorization of the Quran that also sharpens your mind for a lot of other facets of your life.
100%. So, with that, I mean, there was too much time in a day, even though you were so busy. I mean, everything got done. So you had time.
Talk of the barakah of time, right?
Alhamdulillah. I mean, the hadith speaks about starting your day early and, getting going early, and you'll have barakat in your time. And I mean, as kids, you don't understand that. You're 11, 12 years old or whatever the case is. We played sports, we had our friends, we went to school, we had a good time, we did our sabak,
squeezed in a girlfriend also there.
Yeah, a little bit, nothing too serious. And then that's when the next day your sabak wasn't up to scratch.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Allah will always put us on the right path.
But with that, I mean, at the height of it, 1995, we were 11, 12 years old. Rugby World Cup in South Africa. We little Indian boys from an Indian community that are doing hifz. And in between classes, we're playing rugby. We had the rugby ball and we were playing rugby. We didn't know what we were doing, but we were playing rugby.
So this was the year
1995.
95.
Wow. School holidays, madrasa times were a bit different. So you'd have a gap between about 10:30 and Zohar. And we were playing rugby. And as soon as we're done with our rugby, Zohar and back to madrasa. And funny is the guys that we all friends with, some are the imams of the local masjids now, some of muftis at Darul Uloom, but we all grew up together. We played rugby and cricket and soccer and everything of the sort. But there was barakat in time, and we got everything done. And with that, I mean, alhamdulillah, we did well in school. So yeah, it was interesting, busy childhood. Yeah.
A question as well in that community.
Yes.
That something that I think is being lost in many ways with this migrancy of us as you sort of progressing in our careers, in our lives, in our moving away from, and I mean, I guess also with the democracy, when you're now allowed to live in wherever you want to, that there's an element that's getting lost as well. So living in a suburb, you lose that community. There's a beauty in that community
100%.
where, like you said, uncles that are you meeting with. The imam is your friend. He's playing sport with you. What was that like? And how has that also reared you to where you are right now?
So it gives you a foundation. It gives you a sense of community. It gives you a sense of brotherhood. You're not just isolated, somewhat like how we are in today's lifestyles and the lives we live today. I mean, I've got little kids now. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And of course, my boy, I mean, he doesn't know anybody else unless you take him to an activity or swimming or wherever else. There's no neighbors' kids or as much as a local masjid where you become friends with everybody. Maybe, inshallah, as he grows older, that would be there. But that fabric in society has deteriorated. I mean, yes, there is positives of it. We're not all closed in one community, like how apartheid segregated everybody, but there are drawbacks to that, and now we will see it as he's growing up, because we can relate. I guess I was the last generation of that type of living before we semi-migrated into South Africa, So yeah.
I mean, talking about your kids, I mean, I think they you said they're 3 and 1,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, they've had it even more, it's exacerbated because they came out of the pandemic.
Yes.
And with this isolation, we don't think of that as well.
100%.
That these children at that age
Yeah.
have been even more isolated. In that first year, it was the lockdown year, right?
Yeah, so my son was, 8 months old when we went into the hard lockdown in 2020. And all he knew was his mom and I, Shanaz and I. And as he started growing, it was a 2-year period, or almost 2-year period. He started becoming more interactive, but he didn't know anybody else besides on a video call. We did have some interaction, but of course we tried to keep everybody safe as possible. And normally you think, okay, you're going to school at 5, 6 years old or whatever it is. And we started putting him into a Montessori just to get to some social interaction with kids around his age, And it was fascinating when he saw kids around his age, because you could see like he was a bit confused, a 2, 3-year-old child, because all he knew was these giant adults in his eyes, and being, his parents and his grandparents to a certain extent as well. But to see him now interacting with kids his age, being able to play, be able to do things that's age appropriate for him is, something we took for granted all our lives, and we must make sure that everybody is safe and healthy now, and that we can build on this going forward for the kids.
So there we are. I mean, this went so fast. This first segment, we have in studio Zaakir Khan, who's a successful financial broker, running his own business, and we're going to get to his career. We'll talk about that after the break. We've already come to the end of the first segment. Zaakir has been sharing some wonderful insights of his days growing up in Isipingo, in KZN. He's rearing as a youngster, becoming a Hafizul Quran, together with his secular education, and how yet with such a busy day, starting at 4 o'clock and finishing off late into the night, doing his sabak, that barakah of time, which today, if we think about it, is being lost. And maybe these are some of the principles that we need to go back to. We'll get you after the break. Welcome back to Inspirate Business. We have been inspired here with my wonderful guest, Zaakir Khan, looking all dapper, suave as ever, on this beautiful hot couch, we call it.
Yeah.
Hope it's not too intimidating, not at all.
No.
Zaakir has been sharing with us his journey as a youngster. Now let's move to your career, right? You then, you said you matriculated in Isipingo.
Yeah, 2002.
Did you get, right, okay, 2002.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You then did a a tertiary education?
Yeah, so I went off to Natal University before they became UKZN, so it was still Natal University, Howard College.
Right.
I was studying a BCom. I did a marketing and marketing. I did double majors, marketing and strategy.
Okay.
So I graduated 2006 then by then it was UKZN.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you were in that whole transition.
I was in the transition period, yes, correct.
All right,
Yeah.
and that university life was, so it was 4 years, right?
Yeah, so...
Any ups and downs?
So again, we're here to inspire people.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a 3-year degree, it took 4 years. Reason being, failed my first year outright.
Okay.
Having too much of a good time, didn't fully understand what university life is about. In school, you kind of spoon-fed, if you want to put it that way.
Yes.
University, swim sink. First,
You've been given all the freedom as well.
Yeah. You've been given all the freedom. Swim sink, I used to spend a lot of my time at the driving range, and I think that was my challenge. There was a driving range across the road.
Okay.
Missed lectures. Yeah, and then when the results came, I was like, uh-oh, we're in trouble here. So it was a wake-up call. I think you, as a student, you also don't know what you want to do, or you kind of finding your feet in your life, going into a young adult. So you want to get this degree because it's a direction you want to head in. So somewhere behind me, I always knew I wanted to go into the business field and the business sector or finance or something like that. So I didn't, of course, go into engineering and that side. But again, in the business field, it's so broad, I didn't know where I wanted to be. But this degree was a step, a foot in the door, if you want to call it, or a step in the right direction. But when I got those first semester and first year results, I was like, okay, what am I going to do here? So I went on and I put my head down, started focusing a bit more, getting my mind structured and so on. And alhamdulillah, we completed the degree within the specified 3 years, adding one.
Many lessons for youngsters out there as well. I mean, don't give up.
No, never.
You can go astray.
Yeah.
I mean, that is natural. It happens.
Yeah.
But it's always about coming back onto the right path.
100%.
Right? Whatever it may happen, you go astray even in other forms.
Yeah.
But always coming back.
Yeah.
And eventually you will be successful. You'll complete. There was a lovely notch and milestone that you achieved, which is you've got now your tertiary education successfully. You Hafizul Quran. You are now a graduate from UK, University of KZN as a BCom graduate.
Yes.
Majoring in marketing and strategy.
Yes.
The question then is, right, and I know having done a similar degree, because it's not a specialized degree.
100%.
What do you do? The world is your oyster, but there's also a conundrum with it.
Yes.
Because sometimes when you're more specialized, it's perhaps easier. Your choices are easier to go into. I mean, you study to become a doctor, that's where you end up going into, or lawyer or whatever. Now with the BCom marketing, there's so many, even in marketing, there's so many options, whether you're going to consume. What happened then?
I guess also, with marketing in that time, e-commerce was still coming into play.
Okay.
Digital marketing and so on. And our textbooks were slightly,
1999
it was one generation behind. So we're kind of stuck in this rock and a hard place. I'm educated in this state, but the world is moving in this way. So, after I finished my degree, and this is for the youngsters that are in university now, especially you're in this difficult position because whenever you apply for a position, they want a degree plus 2 years experience, a degree plus 3 years. And you said, but I spent my full-time studying. Where am I going to get this experience? So after I finished my degree, or towards the last year of my degree, my full-time job was applying for jobs.
Okay.
Right?
Right. Preparing now for
preparing for the next step. Now your full-time job is applying for jobs and going for interviews and so on and so on. And I remember there was an application at Shell. And I spent, and we had the old dial-up ADSL connections and listening to this thing beeping in the background and finally your CV upload. And I spent about 4 or 5 hours doing the psychometric tests online and all of that. And anyway, I went through the process and I uploaded the CV and pressed finish. And 30 seconds later, I get a declined. You do not meet the affirmative action quota of this, and you kind of feel despondent, right? And you're like, but I just spent 5 hours. Couldn't you tell me this upfront that you are on the wrong race or you don't meet the criteria upfront or whatever it is? And you feel down. But again, don't give up, right? I had specialized, I think through my career, I think I've been through about 200 interviews. Right?
Wow.
200 interviews. I was doing a rough calculation at one point.
Formal interviews.
Formal interviews, be it, they weren't so much online then, but formal interviews, applications, HR agencies, you name it, I've done it, about 200. I was thinking of becoming an HR agent myself because I was sitting on the other side of the table so often.
Or write a book on how to wing an interview.
100%.
Yeah.
And then I got an opportunity, a graduate program became available at the SABC.
So just you're still in Durban.
I'm still in Durban.
How do you end up SABC Durban or Joburg?
Johannesburg.
At Auckland Park.
Auckland Park head office.
Okay, so right? how does that happen?
So again, I guess you keep trying, you keep chipping away, keep speaking to everybody that you can. Just say, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I can offer you. give me a chance, right? And there was a gentleman by the name of Yusuf Nabi, who I'm still very good friends with, very close to. He's a very successful businessman in his own right. He gave me an opportunity, and he was the head of strategy at the SABC at the time. And they opened a strategy office, and on my degree, it got the become strategy. And the strategy was by default because I was doing a marketing degree. And here the foot came into the door. And he says, we've got an opportunity for a graduate intern in our strategy office. And I was like, okay, anything. And I was like, but where? He says, Johannesburg. And now I've come from this home where I never lifted a plate or worried about how my washing got done or worried about food or anything.
The
and
Indian,
now I have to
the
pack
typical
up and
Indian boy syndrome.
Typical. Didn't do anything. My sister is still upset about it all these years later, but so be it.
Yeah.
And now it's time to pack up and leave and go into this unknown big concrete jungle called Johannesburg. Very intimidating, very exciting at the same time, right? And at that time, my dad gave me his Toyota Corolla, and I moved up to Johannesburg 16 years ago, more or less now, with the Toyota Corolla and clothes on my back seat. And that's the journey that started the career.
Into the unknown.
Into the unknown.
Right.
Into the unknown. Remember, all my immediate family, everybody that I knew and familiar with and grew up with, friends, cousins, relatives, uncles, aunts.
So no family in Joburg?
They were relatives in Johannesburg, but the people that I knew very closely and grew up with went with me. Leaving all that behind, let's go start this thing off. And Alhamdulillah, Iqbal and Tasneem, my uncle and his wife, gave me a place. I stayed with them for the first 3 months in Johannesburg until I got an apartment here in Auckland Park.
Okay, so close to work.
Close to work. And
so this was now 2007?
January 2007.
So this was, okay, the SABC was still in quite a buoyant time.
It was in a buoyant time then. It still is, but it was starting to boil over at the time.
All right.
It was starting, there was a change in government, change in leadership at ANC. And
so you were at the time when Darlin Pofu was...
correct.
Okay, right.
He was the CEO at that time for some of the time
so
that
how
I was
many years were you at the SABC?
4 years in total. So
right. And how was that experience?
So it was really wonderful, exciting. I'm starry-eyed getting into seeing the glitz and glamour of television. You get to experience something that you always saw on a screen, but now you're on the other side. And 6 months into my graduate program, the SABC offered me a 3-year contract as a project manager or assistant project manager at SABC Sport. Very exciting for me because, grew up playing sport, loved it, watched it, enjoyed it. However, I didn't know what project management was. I went and Googled, what's a project manager? I mean, I'm taking the job, but I didn't know what it was. And they said, you would be reporting into a project manager. So I said, fine. I mean, I've only got 6 months worth of work experience. However, there was so much of turmoil at the SABC at the time. Just after I signed my contract, they froze all positions. So by default, I became the project manager at SABC Sport, not knowing anything. So I said, well, I need to start knowing something now. So I went and studied even further, and I got postgraduate qualifications in project management.
Wow.
Right. Very exciting time because 2009 was the Confed Cup here in South Africa. So now you're the...
Just before that World Cup excitement.
Yes, and now you're the project manager at the head broadcaster for this event, and now you're getting exposed to all these FIFA guys and, all these meetings and high profile and all of that. Then we go into the World Cup of 2010. And you are in the heart of the action.
So you were at the time at the SABC whilst the World Cup was happening. So in the studios with all the panelists that came, and I think there was Paul Ince was here. I think.
Yes, I got pictures with all of them. Met all of them.
All right.
Seb Blatter at the time. So very exciting. 25 years old, you on top of the world. And then, of course, SABC, you need to travel for conferences and so on. So 24, 25 years old, I'm off to Vegas and New York, and you getting to experience all these things. Very, very, very exciting time of my career. But, at that time, you are all that hard work of that studying and failing and getting going again, it's starting to pay off. Right? Come after the World Cup.
Just hold on to that. We just come to the end of the segment. It's at quite a high note. We'll continue this wonderful conversation. I mean, what a colorful journey that Zaakir has undertaken. And he's just left us in suspense right now on a high. What an experience it must have been for you at the 2010 World Cup with all the excitement, the world watching South Africa. And here you have the national broadcaster, and Zaakir, by default, ends up in those studios, working in that environment, providing the world with the footage of that goal that came from Shabalala, which we'll never forget. And Zaakir was involved in it. How did that happen? It happens through that connection with Allah.
100%.
That way we say there is no coincidence, but Allah guides you to where you are. Even after failing his first year, he ends up there. After the break, we'll continue this wonderful discussion. Welcome back to Inspirate Business, the show that's here to inspire you, to empower you, and to enlighten you. And boy, have we been enlightened and empowered and inspired by Zaakir Khan, my wonderful guest, sharing his journey from the days growing up in Durban, becoming a Hafizul Quran, to failing his first year of university, but never giving up. Eventually completing it, comes to Joburg as in the unknown, housed by his uncle, gets a job at the SABC, and lo and behold, at the time when we have the World Cup, and runs as a project manager the World Cup in the SABC studios under the sport sector. But before the break, you were talking about something that happened there. Right? It was 2010 now.
2010. So
right.
World Cup
is
June, July, completed. Glitz and glamour is over. Reality sets back in. Contract comes to an end, and I think November, December 2010.
Just after your travels to Vegas?
After travels, New York, Vegas, you name it, I've been, you know.
Right.
And now, all of a sudden, contracts ended, positions are frozen, they're not hiring. Still, what do you do? So now you're going...
So it's a crash.
It's a crash. It's a crash. What do? I pack up my life in Johannesburg, all right, put it into a storeroom, I think it was somewhere in Edenvale, and went back to Durban. You know, went back to my parents, who've always been my greatest support and fans and so on. No problem, come, let's, what's the word, consolidate, regroup, and we'll start again. And I went back home.
How was that time, though? I mean, it must have been a very tough time.
It was a very difficult time. It was a very difficult time emotionally. It was a very difficult time financially, because you're used to all this this money coming in and all of that, living a completely independent life, you know, and then all of a sudden gone, right? Through no fault of my own, if I want to put it that way, but circumstance, life does things. Life kicks you down, but it's about how you get up and do it again, right?
Yes.
And I went back home. My uncle, my dad's brother, Imtiaz, I'm very close to. You know, between him and my dad, you know, keep me going, keep me on the straight path.
Your dad was also a very big motivator. I mean, your dad hosts a show, I believe.
Yes.
A radio show on Radio Al Ansar.
Correct.
He's quite sort of involved in the personal development space.
100%.
So you grew up in that, right?
I grew up in an environment, you know, listening about John Kehoe all the time, you know, Edward De Bono, Tony Robbins, and that type of household, because he was always into that. He used to do coaching classes for that. And as a teenager growing up, or even younger than that, it didn't make sense to you. It's like, what is this man talking about? Why is he talking about these type of things? Now, I wish I learned more. I wish I listened more.
But that helped you a lot.
Oh, yes. You know, because it's embedded in your subconscious, you know. And it starts coming to the fore. And it starts coming to the fore. And between that, my education, my uncle, and I'll still remember this today, and inshallah he'll be watching the interview. He always talks about Fajr, Fajr, Fajr. He says, you want anything in life, get up for Fajr, the rest of your day is smooth.
What a powerful tip that your uncle has given you, and these are lessons for us,
100%.
right? That it
100%.
starts your day off on a bang. I mean, people talk about it. They say, firstly, that time of the day
Yeah.
is actually at its purest,
Yeah.
where you can frame your day. You create clarity for your day.
100%.
And we've been given this beautiful gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah. And so I spent about 8 months, I think, in Durban. And in that time, alhamdulillah, it was around August, I think, 2011. I went for Ramadan, for Umrah. I went with my uncle and my cousin, Imtiaz and Sajid. And I was really, really down and out, financially, emotionally, you name it. I was rock bottom. And I had an investment, and my dad also in the financial services industry. He encouraged me to do it when I was in university at 200 Rand a month. You know, whatever money I had, 200 Rand a month, it went off a debit order. And all of a sudden I had 18 or 19,000.
This is like into an endowment?
Yeah, it was in an endowment, right? And I had 18,000 Rand. And my uncle goes for Umrah every year and he sits for itikaf in Medina. And I said, I want to come along. So he says, okay. And I used my 18,000 Rand. And that was literally my last money I had, right? And I went and I said, Allah, I'm spending it in your path. When I come back, I don't have a cent, right? And I promise you, I cried and I made dua and I made dua and I cried and I made dua and don't ever stop making dua. And that's all I did. And I was there. I was there. I had nothing. I was, Ya Allah, help me. Came back
but
to
how powerful. There's a beautiful lesson, very, very powerful lesson. And this is that a very practical lesson for youngsters watching. And that you started with that 200 Rand. You know, we end up spending so much on a lot of frivolous things,
100%.
excess stuff. And especially today, with all this material impact. And you took that 200 and that allowed you at the time when you were down and out to use that to go for Umrah. It is there that you pray to Allah and now Allah guides you into a different journey.
100%.
Right.
Come back to South Africa, nothing to my name, zero in the bank. I get a call from a gentleman. We heard you're a project manager. We're starting up a project. We're looking for people with your skill set. Can you start? I was like, I'm there.
So you were headhunted.
I was headhunted. And that goes back to your dua. Don't stop making dua, right? Came back to Johannesburg, had everything set up again, was the lead project manager for Gauteng for the National Department of Land Affairs for 3 years.
Who would have thought, eh?
I mean, from there to there, you know, and but never, ever, ever, ever give up.
When they say Allah will change the condition of anybody, no matter how down you are, that's living proof of this. Eh?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Spent 3 years, 3.5 years with the government. And I decided, again, contract comes to an end. Now what? Now I'm a bit older. I'm a bit more
wiser.
I'm not going to pack up and go home now. Now I'm going to do it. So I said, I'm tired of other people deciding when and where I can have a job. I'm going to do it myself. All right. So
this is your foray now into the entrepreneurial world.
Yes, correct. That's
right.
That's my my boost to get going. Right. So I come from a family that does this. Insurance. My uncle owns one of the biggest Discovery franchises in KZN, Imtiaz, that I was talking about. My dad had a brokerage longer than I'm alive. So I grew up in this environment, but I never played in the environment, right? And I said, okay, let's give it a go. And again, I spoke to my uncle. We set up a shop here in Johannesburg. I ran it by myself. And alhamdulillah, it's just been step by step. And I started in an apartment that I was living in alone with a plastic stool, a folding plastic trestle table, a laptop, and a printer. And that's how I started the business, all right?
Wow.
And you think, you know what, you're a financial advisor, you need to look the part, you need to know. I knew nothing. I knew nothing, but I learned. All right. I invited a few friends over.
You had good mentors.
I know, definitely. That guided me.
You had your uncle, you had your father.
100%.
But you started off with that minimal resources,
100%.
but with a belief
100%.
that you're going to make it happen. Of course, have never being as an entrepreneur, you were always used to that paycheck
100%.
every month.
Yes.
So now it's that uncertainty.
It's that uncertainty. It's scary because,
And now but you're an official discovery
financial advisor, accredited financial
right?
advisor.
So you said you bring your friends over?
I bring my friends over, invite them for a brine my little balcony in the apartment, and I said, guys, this is what I'm doing. And they're quite a few years older than me at the time, and they married and kids, and I'm still a bachelor. And I said, this is what I'm doing. Who's signing? I need some support. And 2 of the 6 guys that were there signed up, and I was like, okay, and that's the start.
Wow.
And that's the start. And then each day you take a client, and you meet the next person, and you talk to the next person. This is what I do, and this is who I am, and this is what I can offer you. And I think
this was, you started 2015?
Beginning of 2015.
So you now what, like now
7, 8 years into it, yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about this business. How has it been in terms of its initial years and where you are right now?
So initial years were very, very challenging. Again, you used to that paycheck. You solely commission based. So you work, you earn. Client cancels a policy, you take a hit, you go into a negative rand amount. So you need to start managing your finances and so on. So it was very, very challenging, and you're a newbie in the game. So nobody's openly or readily going to trust you with their financial portfolio, but then you start building a reputation, right? And one thing is when you're doing something, be open and honest about it. Be trustworthy. Gain a person's trust.
What they call a trust capital.
100%.
Yes.
100%. So once you do that, and then all of a sudden you signing the next one and the next one and the next one, and over a period of time, you've got this base of clients that you take care of and that you manage, and it becomes a referral business. So you're not going out there anymore and looking for people to, please sign. I was like,
I'm doing well with you, so I then refer somebody else.
100%.
And I say, and that's
who
how
trusts
you grow.
you,
Yeah.
And you say, tell
so
them
that's how you grow, right?
100%.
So as you are right now, you're still operating from home? Or,
so I've got offices.
Yes.
I've got administrators working for me. Alhamdulillah.
Wow. How many people?
We've got about 4 people managing queries. Stuff
You're
like that.
still the main sales agent.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's me. And it's working well. We always want more, we desire more. And it's important to have I'd say a 3 to 5 year goal of where you want to be in your personal life, where you want to be in your business life, what you want to do. You can't always stay in the same place and want to achieve different results. So you're going to have to educate yourself, maybe expand your business offering, maybe expand your customer service offering to your clients, So those are the types of things that you're always constantly evolving on to be able to go through to the next level of where you want to be. But while you're going to the next level of where you want to be, enjoy where you are.
How powerful is that?
I think that's important, because if you're constantly chasing of where you want to be, you're not going to enjoy where you're at. So enjoy where you're at. And alhamdulillah, I've got this business that's going, and it's picking up nicely. It's got traction. It's got a solid foundation now. But my biggest joy in life right now, that is my family, and that's being Shanaz, my wife, and my 2 young
beautiful kids.
Yes. Alhamdulillah, Muhammad Yusuf and Fatima. And I enjoy spending a lot of time with them. I enjoy spending a lot of time with them. Teaching and developing the kids, and of course learning from my wife. But it's money will come and money will go. Opportunities will come and opportunities will go. But that your family will always stay with you. And that's important. And when the times are tough, consolidate, pull back, regroup, and get going again. But do not always chase the money, chase the finances, because that will fall into place. I think it's a combination of, and most importantly, your salah, your Quran, your dua, again, your education, your trustworthiness, your openness, and family. And along the way, you're going to come across people that are not going to be there with you throughout the journey. So,
wow, on that, what powerful words provided, what powerful lessons provided to us by Zaakir. We've just come to the end of this third segment. Let's explore a little bit after the break around where to from here. Because where's the next step in this journey for this young, dapper 37-year-old? Where to from here with this beautiful family, and how you see the world also, being with all the changes that are happening. Catch you after the break. Welcome back to Inspirate Business. We have had this last 3 segments, the fortune of having Zaakir Khan in studio, sharing with us his journey, growing up in Isipingo Hills as a young boy, schooled there, became a Hafizul Quran, went to university, did his marketing major with strategy, failed the first year, continued, graduated, ended up in Joburg into the foray of the unknown, ended up working for the SABC in the sports sector, fortunate enough to travel the world, or work at the time for the SABC where we had the 2010 World Cup. That experience with all these international footballers, I know for his ills, he is a Liverpool fan, but we won't go into that now. Actually, no, we got to admire you for that. But it's painful as a Man United fan. So, of course, then loses his job. Imagine on that high, loses his job, gets back, regroups back with his family, finds that solace in that oasis of the desert with his mom and dad, that then rearing his uncle, and gets headhunted to a government entity where he works there for 3 years, loses the contract, or ends the contract ends, and then decides to get into the entrepreneurial world. Because of his family's background as a discovery, insurance, financial broker business, he then starts his own. Starts off with his friends who invests with him with these plastic chairs. And 8 years later or 7 years later, we're now sitting here as a very successful young man, family man, very strong ethos, 2 young, beautiful kids, 3 years old and 1 year old, big influence of his wife in his life. So I hope I've summarized that well enough. That's Zaakir's life, and beautiful lessons in that, talking about honesty, integrity, talking about never giving up. But Zaakir, as we close this the show, where to from here for Zaakir Khan, right? In the business side, also your view of the world we live in. You just come out of this pandemic. Your kids have just come out of this pandemic. Where to for your kids as well, growing up in South Africa, in Africa, the world also opening up. What are your views?
So, there's a lot of discussion about leaving the country. There's nothing left in South Africa. It's time to pack up and go. What will the kids' future be? That discussion also happened in the early 90s when I was a kid.
Correct.
And I grew up in this country, and alhamdulillah, we have a successful business in this country. I believe in South Africa. I believe in the people of South Africa. I believe in the will of the people of South Africa. I think, if we look at being fortunate enough to be in the government sector, if we look at the policies of government and what they want to achieve on paper, I think it's brilliant.
It's true.
There's nothing better when reading those documents. I think where we're falling short as a country is on the implementation. Implementation. If those policies can be implemented correctly, and everybody taking their due without taking what's not due to them, I think we'll have a very successful and beautiful country because of the will of the people of the country that want to succeed. Right? For my kids, for us now, we in South Africa, so they will be with us in South Africa. But however, as they grow older, be it from university onwards, if they want to emigrate and leave, we won't stop them. The world's your oyster.
Yes.
But we'll give them all the tools and the learnings and the foundations to make them as successful as they can be in in their deen, in the world, in their businesses, and whatever sector they choose to be in.
Yeah, you know, you say something also very powerful in the deen. And I think we have to also acknowledge that, and you look at the world today with the Islamophobia and so on, and we've been very blessed as Muslims in this country. I mean, number one, we are a minority. You know, obviously Islam is spreading across into the indigenous communities as well. And there's some budding, you know, young entrepreneurs coming out, Muslim entrepreneurs coming out from the indigenous African communities that are very successful, and Islam will look very different. But this country has given us, has afforded us this opportunity to express our deen in an open way, to make such an impact. I mean, you look at any government, big inauguration of the president, for example, you'll have all the different faiths there. That is something that we cannot take for granted.
No, we are very fortunate. I'm also very fortunate to have traveled the world extensively in my personal capacity and in work capacity. And you go to a lot of countries and there's no azan, there's no masjid, there's no halal food. And here we take it for granted. You know, we take it for granted. And for that, we must make a lot of shukr. And we must appreciate what we have, right? To be able to get to the next level and expand the deen, empower previously disadvantaged individuals. You know, you asked me going forward in the business, where would that be? And I'd like to, at some point in the near future, start expanding and giving that youngster a chance in a graduate program that somebody gave me an opportunity with in the sector that I've become an expert in now.
So you become a mentor to others.
100%. And, you know, you can empower somebody and he'd be able to pass that on to somebody else and become...
So let's take Zaakir up on that, and I mean, there's lots of viewers here, youngsters that are watching, that there's an opportunity here, right, for others to, and in turn, that can come on, can learn from Zaakir. I mean, he's offering that, and alhamdulillah, that's such a ni'mah that, I mean, Allah tells us that we should be giving of and sharing of our knowledge. Those are the ones that are, I think there's a hadith to that effect, that those are the ones that actually are granted the highest stages in Jannah, right? That
the ones that teach,
the ones that are sharing, right? And we don't have to be teachers per se in the professional sense. We are all teachers in our own ways in terms of sharing our knowledge and in terms of giving back. So as we come to the end, I mean, you know, obviously intrigued by in this last hour through your journey, and I hope there's a lot of lessons that we can take from and implement in our own lives. I know I have been absolutely intrigued, especially when those lessons when you were totally down and you mustered up that faith in Allah. You're talking of prayer, that fajr, how important that is, those du'as that we need to constantly ask Allah to guide us wherever we are, whatever challenges we're going through. Right? Allah can always change your condition. Always remember that. No matter how much it feels like it's the end, there's despair, Allah will change your condition just like that.
100%.
Right? But if somebody wants to connect with you, maybe somebody may want to get help from an investment perspective, some advice.
100%.
I know Discovery, for example, right now, and you being a leading Discovery you know, broker, I have now offering a lot of Sharia compliant investments.
And the medical aid has a Sharia compliant.
I believe so. Yes. So how does one connect with you?
So you can give me a call directly on my cell phone, 082 557 8685. You can give me a shout and I'll respond to you, or you can send me an email on zaakir.khan, zaakir.khan @ic.discovery.co.za. So feel free to reach out and we'll see how we can assist.
We'll put those details as well on our Inspirate business page. And for those that want to take up the opportunity also to operate as an intern, Zaakir is prepared. Maybe you can do like workshops even on a Saturday morning where you can train youngsters. You know, thinking of my son, for example, a young, you know, 20-year-old, and maybe there's so many others that can learn
100%.
and, you know, learn from your experiences being and with that strong Islamic ethos. I think what came out very, very strongly for me from Zaakir's life is that it's all underpinned with that connection to Allah, being Hafizul Quran as well. And it is that combined with the secular education and this. Listen, we have to also be very ambitious.
Yes.
And Zaakir is an ambitious man. He's, and enjoy the material aspects of life, which Allah has said that, you must enjoy.
Yes.
All right. And enjoy that, but always with the view that doing it in a way of honesty, integrity.
Yes.
And what you talked about as well, that trust capital, that where people can trust you. I mean, how else can you be successful providing people are sharing their money with you if they don't trust you?
Yeah.
And that is very, very important. So on that note, we've come to the end of the show. Again, Zaakir, thank you so much for sharing your insights with you.
Pleasure.
I know, sometimes, and this is courageous in itself, that many people want to always share the positives.
Yes.
But it's in those negatives that we learn from so much.
Yes, definitely.
And I guess those negatives have really been the ones that have catapulted you into where you are today. We, from the Inspirate Business team, wish you all the best in your journey moving forward.
Exactly.
And I hope you, as the viewer, have been inspired as I have. And we hope to get you on many other shows where we can share the journeys of influencers to inspire, empower, and enlighten us. On that score, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.